It's all in your head. The greatest lie we tell men that he didn't want to sit down. Paced my office like the floor might crack beneath him. Nervous energy. A strong man, mid-50s, still broad-shouldered, still handsome in that I've lived some life kind of way. I don't get it, he finally said. I'm in shape. I eat well. I walk every morning. But down there, it's like the signal just doesn't go through. Pause. And the worst part? I still want to. God, do I want to. His name was Mark. 54. Second marriage. They were in love. That glowing, unexpected kind of love that finds you when you've already made peace with solitude. But now I'm afraid, he admitted. What if my best years really are behind me? And then he asked the question that men whisper across the world but rarely say out loud. Is it even possible to feel like 30 again when you're 50 or more? Let me say this now, as someone who spent 35 years treating men from 50 to 90. Yes. But not in the way you think. That here's where the lie starts, that we've trained men to believe that intimacy is just about hormones. That the only thing standing between them and desire is a little blue pill. That the loss of spontaneous, morning vitality is simply what happens. And if you don't bounce back like you did at 30, well, then you're broken. But here's the twist most never expect. It's not just about age. It's about circulation, emotion, sleep, stress, confidence. And the real tragedy? Most men think they need to chase performance, when what they really need is presence. I remember Dimitri, 58, former builder, hands like leather, but gentle. He came to me after 3 months of making excuses to his wife. She thinks I don't want her, he said. But I've never wanted anyone more. When we ran the tests, it wasn't his testosterone. It wasn't even medication. It was blood flow. Years of untreated blood pressure, bad sleep, and a life lived in overdrive had left his smallest vessels. The ones no one talks about, tired, narrowed, sluggish. No one tells you, he said, that your heart can still want what your body struggles to deliver. And that was the key. Not shame, not weakness, not failure, just biology. And biology, thank God, can change. But here's what we don't tell men. That your erection isn't just a reaction. It's a reflection of your vascular health, your nervous system, your sleep patterns, your emotional safety. It's not just down there. It's all of you. When I explain this to men, I often see something surprising, relief, because for the first time, they understand that they're not broken, they're just out of balance. Point one man told me. I used to feel like a lion at 30. Now, I feel like a neutered house cat. And I smiled. Then let's feed the lion, I said. But here's the trick. The food isn't what you think. It's not a supplement from a shady website. It's not a secret herb from the jungle. It's not chasing what worked when you were 27 and invincible. It's honoring where you are now, repairing what time has worn, rebuilding trust with your body, restoring intimacy, not as an act, but as a state of being. Because when you do that, when you give your body what it truly needs, it does respond, not instantly, but faithfully, and not with the frantic energy of youth, but with the grounded, lasting, deeply satisfying vitality of a man who knows who he is. In the next part, we'll break down exactly why erections change after 50, the physiology, the hidden factors, and the biggest myths that keep men in silent suffering. We'll also begin to explore how to rebuild, naturally, safely, and with dignity. But for now, let me leave you with this. You are not your last failed attempt. You are not your age. You are not your fear. You are a man, with decades still ahead, and more to give than you realize. And yes, you can feel like 30 again, but the journey starts. Not with a pill, but with permission. To be real. To ask. To hope. Your body is not betraying you. It's warning you. There's a moment, often quiet, often in the dark, when a man begins to doubt his body. It might be the second time things don't work. Or the third, a few awkward minutes. Hey, forced joke. A silence from her side of the bed, and suddenly, the question creeps in. What's wrong with me? Not just physically, but existentially. That's what nobody tells you about this kind of change. It doesn't just affect your body. It touches your identity. But let me share a truth I've told hundreds of men in their 50s, 60s, even 80s. Your body isn't betraying you. It's communicating with you. And what feels like failure is often a cry for attention. Let's break it down. Gently, clearly, Without shame. An erection is not a miracle, that it's a highly coordinated event between your brain, your nerves, your hormones, and, most importantly, your blood vessels. That it's not about drive or desire. It's about circulation, and your circulatory system. It's aging too. By the time most men hit 50, the inner lining of their blood vessels, called the endothelium, becomes less flexible. Years of stress, high blood pressure, lack of movement, poor sleep, smoking, processed food. All of it adds up. And where does it show up first? Not in your chest, not in your arms, but in the smallest arteries, the ones that serve your intimacy. Yes. The first warning sign of cardiovascular disease is often erectile dysfunction. Not always, but often enough that I've made it a rule. When a man says things aren't working in the bedroom, I check his heart, because the link is real and powerful. I remember a man named Emil. He was 61, tall, fit, former runner. But in the past year, things had changed. Slowly, quietly. He hadn't told anyone, not even his wife. Doc, he said, I can still jog 3 miles. But when I'm with her, nothing. We ran a few tests, and what we found likely saved his life. A 70% blockage in a major artery. No symptoms, no chest pain, but his body had whispered the truth through intimacy. 3 months later, after a stint and some lifestyle changes, he came back. He smiled, not just because his heart was better, but because he had permission again to feel. And this is where the myth breaks down. It's not about just getting older. It's about how your systems, vascular, neurological, emotional, begin to ask for more care. Your body isn't punishing you. It's asking, will you pay attention to me before I break down? And when you do, that's when the repair begins. So how do you feel like 30 again? Not by chasing performance. By restoring function. Not by pretending you're young. By respecting your age and learning how to thrive in it. That's what I help men do every day. Improve blood flow naturally, reduce stress hormones, balance sleep, movement, nutrition, rebuild emotional trust in their own body, not to become who they were at 30, but to become who they've grown into, with wisdom, softness, strength that doesn't need proving. In part 3, we'll explore the emotional side of this story, how fear, silence, and pressure quietly destroy intimacy, even when the body still can, and how you can break that cycle starting now. But for today, remember, if things are changing, it's not the end. It's a message. And if you listen with care, your body will speak clearly. It will say, I'm still here. I just need your help to feel again. Erection after 50. Feeling like 30 again. Myth or possibility? This chapter opens the emotional door, showing how silence, shame, and unspoken pressure often do more harm than biology ever could. Part 3. When fear becomes the third person in the room. He said it like a confession. I act like I'm not interested anymore. But really, I'm terrified to try. That was Harold, 62, retired teacher. Kind eyes. He had been married for 35 years to a woman he still loved and still found beautiful. But for the past 6 months, every moment of closeness had ended the same way, in awkwardness, not because he didn't want her, because he was afraid he couldn't respond to her. And eventually, that fear built a wall, not made of anger, but of silence. I don't touch her as much anymore, he said, because if I start something and I can't finish, I'd rather not start at all. That's when I see it, the slow erosion of connection, not from a loss of love, but from a loss of trust in one's own body. Here's what most people don't realize. A man's erection isn't just a biological response, that it's a conversation between his brain, his body, and his heart. And when fear enters that conversation, it interrupts everything. Fear of failing, fear of disappointing, fear of being judged, fear of being pitted, and worst of all, fear of being alone in it. So many men suffer in silence, not because they're proud, but because they think they're the only ones that they're not. I've had men cry in my office, not from pain, but from relief, just to finally speak the words, it's not working, and I don't know why. And every time, I say, you are not broken. You are overwhelmed. Because pressure is poison to intimacy. When a man feels he must perform, on demand, without support, without space, his nervous system freezes, blood doesn't flow, desire turns into dread, and touch becomes a test. I remember another man, Leonid. He was 59, divorced, recently dating again. Things were going well with someone new, until they weren't. She touched my chest, he said, and I panicked. Not because I didn't want her, but because I remembered the last time I couldn't. He paused, so I made an excuse. I got up. I left, and she never called again. Not because of the moment, because of the silence after it. You see, intimacy doesn't require perfection, that it requires honesty. And for many men, the road back to a satisfying intimate life doesn't start with medicine.it. Starts with conversation, with saying, "This is where I am. Can we meet each other here?" With patience. In truth, many partners, especially those who've shared years with you, aren't expecting your body to behave like it did at 30, yet they're hoping you'll stay present at 60 be there, emotionally, tenderly, vulnerably. Because what breaks intimacy is not the loss of spontaneity, that it's the loss of connection. And connection is still possible, even when performance is unpredictable. In fact, when men learn to slow down, to talk, to prepare, to reduce pressure, their bodies often respond better because they're no longer in fear, they're in trust. In part 4, we'll talk about how the nervous system and your stress hormones affect erection far more than you think, and how to calm the body back into responsiveness. But for now, I'll leave you with this. You are not alone in this. And the most intimate act a man can offer isn't physical, it's this sentence: "I still want to be close, even if I don't have all the answers yet." Say it out loud and see what softens. The enemy no one sees. When stress silently steals your spark, that he thought it was just aging. Lately, he'd been forgetful. Sleep was shallow. His energy dipped by mid-morning. And by the time he crawled into bed, he didn't feel like touching anyone, not even himself. But the part that scared him most, he couldn't remember the last time he woke up aroused. "I used to feel it, without even trying," he said. "Now, even when I want to feel it, nothing happens." That man was Thomas, 58, ran a business, provided for everyone, rarely slowed down. He didn't smoke. He exercised. He ate well. But his intimacy had vanished, like steam off a mirror. I ran his blood work. It came back normal. And that's when I knew this wasn't his heart or his hormones. This was stress. You see, most people don't realize this. But an erection isn't just about arousal, it's about safety. It's about whether your nervous system feels calm enough to shift into rest, pleasure, openness. And if you're living in constant fight or flight, even quietly, your body won't open. It can't. Because biologically, your body is trying to survive. And survival mode is the enemy of intimacy. Imagine this: a man comes home. He's had a full day, deadlines, bills, emails, news headlines, maybe even a silent argument with someone he loves. He pours a glass of wine, tries to relax, but his brain is still racing. His body is buzzing with unprocessed tension. And then someone touches him. A partner. A moment. And instead of responding with warmth, he tenses, or goes numb, or pretends he's tired. Not because he doesn't care, because his body hasn't exhaled all day. That was Thomas's story. And it's the story of thousands of men I've treated. Men who aren't broken, just wired too tight. Here's what stress does to a man's body: raises cortisol, which suppresses testosterone, disrupts sleep, which disrupts libido, tenses pelvic muscles, which can block blood flow, narrows arteries, which impacts erections directly, triggers shame when the body fails, which creates more stress. It's a vicious, silent cycle. And the tragedy? Most men don't even realize they're in it, because they're so used to carrying the weight of everything and never putting it down. When Thomas and I began working together, we didn't start with medication. We started with a nightly routine. No screens after 9 p.m., light stretching before bed, deep breathing, just 5 minutes, magnesium and warm tea. Writing down 3 things he was grateful for. He laughed when I suggested it. "This is what you'd give your grandfather," he said. "No," I replied. "This is what I give to the part of you that's been fighting for 40 years. He tried it. And in 2 weeks, his sleep deepened. In a month, he started waking with a familiar feeling. And one morning, he walked into my office with a smirk. "Doc," he said, "I think my body's remembering something it forgot." That's what happens when we calm the storm. The spark returns. Here's the real secret to feeling like 30 again. It's not in chasing youth, it's in protecting peace. Because when your nervous system feels safe, your body becomes open again to sensation, to desire, to connection. In Part 5, we'll explore how movement, sleep, and certain foods can reignite blood flow and boost your natural chemistry without a single prescription. But for now, ask yourself gently, what if it's not about trying harder, but softening more? What if pleasure isn't a performance, but a permission? Erection after 50. Feeling like 30 again, myth or possibility? In this chapter, we explore how lifestyle, food, movement, and daily rhythm can become powerful medicine. No magic pills, just real, natural momentum. Part 5. Blood, breath, and the quiet medicine of daily life. He didn't want pills. I've seen what they do to my friends, he told me. One minute they're laughing, next minute they're dizzy, red in the face, scared. That was Roman. 65. Widower. Quiet. Thoughtful. Still walked to the cafe every morning. Still made his own soup every Sunday. He wasn't against intimacy. He missed it, but the idea of being rescued by a pill didn't sit right with him. I want to feel like myself again, he said. Not like a version of me that has to be fixed by chemicals. And I nodded. Because the truth is, the body already knows how to heal. We just have to give it the tools. Let's talk about blood. Because no matter what anyone tells you, erections are first and foremost a circulatory event. And you can only get a strong response when blood is flowing freely, confidently, and without obstruction. That means your blood vessels have to be relaxed. Your heart has to be pumping well. Your nerves need to signal clearly. What helps that? Movement, sleep, and food. Simple, yes, but powerful. Let's start with movement. You don't need to lift weights or run marathons. In fact, most of my patients see the biggest changes from walking 30 minutes a day. Brisk, steady, focused. Why? Because walking increases nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels, lowers stress hormones, improves insulin sensitivity, key for energy and libido, enhances pelvic circulation. One man told me, it's like my whole lower body woke up. Again, I used to think my legs were just for getting around. Now I realize they carry my spark. Next, sleep. I can't say this clearly enough. No sleep equals no intimacy. When you're tired, your testosterone drops. Your nerves misfire. Your stress hormones spike. Your motivation plummets. And worst of all, you stop dreaming. And without dreams, desire dies. Rest is not weakness. It is preparation. Roman began prioritizing his sleep. No TV in bed. No caffeine after noon. Lavender oil. Simple routines. After 3 weeks, he came to me and said, Doc, I don't know how to say this, but I'm starting to feel present. Like I'm back in my body. That's the magic of rest. It brings you home. Finally, let's talk food. Forget aphrodisiacs. Focus on flow. Beetroot juice opens arteries. Watermelon, rich in citrulline. Dark berries, loaded with antioxidants. Leafy greens support nitric oxide production. Oily fish for healthy vessel walls. These foods don't perform miracles overnight, but over weeks, they rebuild the foundation. You stop feeling sluggish. Your mind clears. Your skin warms. And slowly, like spring after a long winter, something stirs. Roman did all three. He walked every morning, ate colorfully, slept deeply. No pills. And one afternoon, he came in, sat down, and didn't say a word, just smiled. After a long pause, he said, we were close last night. It was quiet, gentle, no pressure, just real. And then, with a tear in his eye, I didn't think I'd ever feel that again. That's what this is about. Not tricks, not hacks, not performance, but preparation. You don't have to chase your 30s. You can build your 50s. Better. In Part 6, we'll talk about the role of emotional intimacy, how what happens outside the bedroom sets the stage for everything inside it. But for today, remember this. You don't need to be younger. You need to be you, nourished, rested, moving, and alive. And from there, everything becomes possible. The touch before the touch. His voice was soft. She doesn't reach for me anymore, he said. But neither do I. I'm scared of what might not happen if I try. That was David. 63. Still in love with his wife. Still attracted to her. Still dreamed, some nights, of those early years when everything was spontaneous, loud, breathless. But now, he said, It feels like we're roommates. Or polite strangers. And then the hardest part. She thinks I'm not interested. But I am. More than ever. I just don't know how to begin anymore. So many men think erection begins in the body. But it doesn't, that it begins in the space between two people. In how safe you feel with each other. In how seen. In how heard. In how gently you can be yourself. With flaws, fears, and awkward pauses. What David was really missing wasn't function. It was permission to reconnect. Here's the truth most couples miss. Intimacy after 50, real, alive, lasting intimacy, starts in the kitchen. Or the living room. Or the hallway, where you brush past her and place a hand on her waist, not because you want something, but because you're still drawn to her. It starts in the look you give her when she's not wearing makeup. In the way you listen when she talks about her day. In the way you don't rush, but linger, because your nervous system only opens when your heart feels safe, and so does hers. David began small. Point one evening. Instead of turning on the TV, he asked her to sit on the porch. They drank tea. No phones. No pressure. He told her a story about their first trip together. She laughed, that laugh he hadn't heard in months. And that night, they held hands in bed. Not to lead somewhere, but just to remember. He said to me. It felt like foreplay. But not the physical kind. The emotional kind. Exactly. Because here's what most men forget. Erection doesn't start in your pants. It starts in your presence. When a man listens, truly listens, his partner softens. When he touches without expectation, her body remembers. When he shows up, emotionally, respectfully, patiently, the bedroom becomes sacred again. Not a performance hall. Not a battleground. A sanctuary. I remember another couple, Ire and Larissa, together for 38 years. She once said to me, I don't miss the act. I miss his eyes when he used to look at me. So Ire began to look again. At breakfast. After dinner. In the way he pulled her chair out before she Saturday, and slowly, something reawakened. Not just in her. In him. Because the brain associates connection with pleasure, and when connection returns, desire follows. In part 7, our final chapter, will come full circle. Back to the question men ask with fear and hope in their voice. Can I feel like 30 again? And we'll answer it. Fully, truthfully, tenderly. But for now, hear this. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. Sometimes, you just need to start with a touch. That means nothing, except everything. The lion isn't lost. He's resting. When Mark first walked into my office, the man we met in part 1, he didn't look sick, that he looked afraid. Not of dying, of disappearing. I want to be with her, he said. But I'm scared that part of me is gone. I miss the man I was at 30. Confident. Unstoppable. Ready. It's the same quiet heartbreak I've seen in hundreds of men. Not because they've failed, but because no one told them. That desire doesn't die with AGE.IT, just asks to be met differently. So, let's answer the question. Clearly, truthfully. Can you feel like 30 again? Not in the same way. Not with the speed or ease or hormonal fire of youth. But in many ways, yes. And sometimes even better, because what you gain with age, when you choose it, is deeper than drive. You gain intentionality instead of impulse, presence instead of pressure, emotional honesty instead of pretending, confidence rooted in wisdom, not performance. And when blood flow improves and stress drops and emotional safety returns, your body doesn't just work again. It responds. It enjoys. It connects, like it's meant to. Mark did the work. He walked, slept, took beet juice every morning like a ritual, meditated for 5 minutes before bed, even when he felt silly, started complimenting his wife again, sincerely, and one day, weeks later, he said something that stopped me in my tracks. I don't feel like 30 again, he said. I feel like me, fully, for the first time in years. He paused, and honestly, that's better. So, to you, yes, you reading this, here's what I want to leave you with. The lion inside you is not dead. He's not broken. He's not too old. He's waiting for breath, for softness, for you to stop punishing yourself and start nourishing yourself. Because intimacy after 50 isn't a consolation prize, it's a new chapter. And in that chapter, you're not performing, you're present, you're real, you're enough. If this story spoke to you, if you saw even a glimpse of your own journey in it, know this, you are not alone. There are men all over the world waking up to themselves. Again, not by chasing youth, but by choosing connection by saying, I still want to feel. I still want to be touched. I still want to love and be loved with all of me. That's not weakness, that's courage, that's manhood, that's the lion rising.